What's up, Metal Brethren? Scott Tannic one coming at you again live from the dungeon with part 3 of the Death Metal Vault reviews. And before I really get into that, I really want to talk about the band in particular that we're going to be talking about in this video. And that is Tampa, Florida's Deicide, one of the more controversial death metal bands in the scene at the time. They were definitely over the top when it comes to the imagery of the music within, especially Glenn Benton, their front man. The first three Deicide records, I think, are the most noteworthy in their entire catalog, but yet at the same time, I really like a lot of their work. Um, that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into it right now with their first one, their self-titled Deicide. This album was kind of underproduced. It came out in 1990, kind of in, the fledgling phases of definitely the death metal scene in this band in particular. Some standout tracks for you are Lunatic of God's Creation. My personal favorite off here is Sacrificial Suicide. If you don't check out this entire album, at least check out that track. That track is amazing. Um, Oblivious to Evil, Dead by Dawn, Carnage in the Temple of the Damned. I mean, this record is just grabs a hold of you right off the first few seconds of the first track and just doesn't let go of you. Um, Definitely a trip into some of the really darker parts of the human experience and spiritual realms. This, like I said, this album's kind of underproduced. It's not as technical as some of the other Deicide stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and rate this one. I'm going to give this one 4.5 out of 5, being the fact that this is just an amazing gateway drug into what Deicide has to offer. Moving on to my personal favorite of the first three, that is 92's Legion. Legion is so technical. It's just so well produced, so well polished. Some of the leads on this are some of the most insane leads you'd ever hear. It's a departure from what Morbid Angel did with their sound. Morbid Angel's more slowed down and doomy sounding, where Deicide is just chaotic. I mean, this album in particular, this is the one where Glenn Benton said that I was under demonic possession when we wrote a lot of the tracks off this record, and it's just this is where the real hype around Deicide as the premier satanic band kind of just seemed to come from. Some tracks on here: Dead But Dreaming, Trifixian, Holy Deception, In Hell I Burn, Revocate the Agitator, Behead the Prophet. I mean, this record here is probably one of the more evil records you'll ever hear besides Behemoth the Satanist. I personally really like this record just for the fact of the sheer ferocity and the riffing that was going on this record. And the lyrical themes are just some of the darkest, most just straight to hell sounding vocals, lyrical themes you'll ever hear in any death metal record. Um, if you don't own anything by Deicide, I definitely recommend picking up Legion. Legion is probably their trademark album. That being said, I'm gonna rate Legion at 5 out of 5. I think it's a must own for any fan of extreme metal. You should definitely have a copy of Legion. Um, Going on to Once Upon the Cross, their third outing. Now this one was a little more slowed down, a little bit more better produced than Legion, not as chaotic. Some standout tracks on there are probably When Satan Ruled His World, Once Upon the Cross, They Are the Children of the Underworld, Behind the Light Thou Shalt Rise. I mean, the tracks on this record alone are just a lot better sounding than, some of the stuff on the first two records. But, in a way, it just doesn't stand up to what Legion had to offer, I don't think, especially with like I said, with Legion, it was just such a ferocious, just grab you by the balls kind of record that, they followed it up with a pretty decent record, but, I mean, it's not as good as Legion. I'm going to go ahead and rate Once Upon the Cross 4 out of 5. Not as good as the self-titled, definitely not as good as Legion, but yet still definitely worth your time, worth your money. That being said, let me know what your opinions are on, my foray here into the early roots of death metal. Hit me up in the comments, Subscribe if you like what I have to say. If you don't like what I have to say, there's other channels, like I said in the previous vid. But that being said, metal brethren, keep it real, keep it metal. Later.